I have this terrifying nightmare where there is these AI operated vehicles.
Why can't I play God? Or why can't I fathom the entire universe?
Will AI ever believe in God? Our ability to communicate with AI will cease to exist because you cannot talk to something that you cannot understand.
It's like a 2-year-old trying to manipulate a 30-year-old. They might just decide to go colonize Mars. They might just decide to self-destruct. They might calculate that the most efficient thing to do is to make sure that human beings don't ever have AI technology and nuclear technology, and so they just eliminate both and then they vanish. I mean, who knows?
I'll tell you what, let's talk about AI. We really need to address that. I have this terrifying nightmare where there is these AI operated vehicles, fully optimized, fully programmed to get people from point A to point B. We already have those, in San Francisco and some other cities, right?
Waymo and all these things.
I don't know if they're AI operated or if they're just automated, but the way they drive, it doesn't look like they're AI operated. But I don't know. But imagine that they're AI operated, right? And this vehicle is told to get to from point A to point B within like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
A human being will be very careful, will try to use their human judgment. Oh, there's kids crossing the road, there's other cars, there's this, there's that.
Right.
But I think that this particular vehicle will be absolutely optimized in order to get to its destination in as little time as possible. And the way that it would operate will be efficient, but I think for us, other motorists, other drivers, will probably be unsettled, seeing this car absolutely perfectly and efficiently zigzagging and switching lanes and stuff like that, but doing things in the process that would affect us psychologists. Like, whoa, what is wrong with this? Even though we know that it's not going to make an accident and it's not going to hit anything. This type of efficiency in AI, when it's not tempered by the other human considerations, the other human emotions, is this a future that we're looking at when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've already seen, the automated vehicles, on the streets. In the past, remember there was like a couple of stories about these Teslas and the accidents they were involved in. And at that point, the blame was on the Teslas, or they're on the automated vehicles. But I think as you move forward into the future, where more and more vehicles will be automated in this way, and they'll be powered by AI, and they'll be linked up, at some point, society will decide that, the accidents that are being caused are not the fault of the automated vehicles. It's the fault of the drivers, the human drivers, who are acting unpredictably, as opposed to the automated vehicles, which are acting perfectly according to their programming. And you can see a scenario where the state or the government will mandate that we want fewer human drivers on the road. And that means fewer people free to drive however they want and wherever they want. And so you see how this becomes like a pathway for some overreach from government entities, justified by the fact that we need to optimize the technology that we're using, and human beings are the problem.
But is that optimization wrong? I mean, if it leads ultimately to the reduction in the number of accidents, is there any other consideration that is more important than safety?
Yeah, we used to live in a society where freedom was a more important consideration than safety, right? But I think as we desire more and more luxuries, and as we desire more and more amenities, we give up more and more of our freedoms for that, right? So it's very, very comfortable and convenient to have a car that's going to take you from point A to point B, and you don't have to do anything. But you have to give up the freedom then at some point to actually be able to take yourself.
So what you're saying is that it's not just efficiency and absolute utter effectiveness that we are after. That we as human beings, there are other considerations that are just as important or perhaps more important for us. It's not just about whether something works, it's about why it works and to achieve what end and what the manner by which it works is. It's not for us, ends justify the means. It's also about the journey. It's also about how to get there. Like I imagine scenarios where, the AI is programmed to get me from point A to point B safely and efficiently, but I want to take a pit stop, and I want to, take the kids to get some Cheetos.
Right.
This will be going against efficiency, and so AI might say,
Right, no.
we're not doing that because you need to get to work, at this hour. You need to get to your destination at that hour. Like we make subjective decisions that may not make sense to AI,
Right.
and that is not something that AI is prepared to accept. Is that what we're saying?
One of the most beautiful things that, like, on any road trip, take the family and kids, and I'm sure you've experienced something similar. One of the most memorable experiences on that road trip is when I just decide to hit the gas for a little bit, and the kids are like, yelling, and because the car's going a little faster, of course, within the speed limit, right?
I'm sure your wife is okay with that.
Absolutely. But the point is, it creates this experience which has nothing to do with efficiency. It's wasting more gas. It's going at a speed that I was not going at prior, or even sometimes doing the opposite, right? Slowing down because you just want to view the scenes or whatnot. You might be able to program AI so perfectly or so well that it could even calculate, hey, we should go a little slower in this area because it's more scenic. But how slow? What if one person wants to go slower than somebody else and they want to see it more? What if somebody wants to just stop and get out and look? And again, we can keep discussing, well, no problem, we'll just build it in. We'll keep building it in. But at some point, you have to acknowledge that we're leaning towards this world where everything is kind of calculated and predetermined.
And automated.
And that's not necessarily what human beings want to experience.
What you're saying is that efficiency without wisdom is not really what we want in the end. See, I'm interested in examining future scenarios. As AI, as a device of technology evolves and grows and becomes ubiquitous and becomes undeniable and starts weaving itself into all aspects of our lives, I'm trying to envision what that future is going to look like, as a man of faith, but also as a human being, to see how and in what manner am I going to be able to fit into that future. And so I remember that there was this chess match between the famous Kasparov, and where he played with this IBM machine, I think it was called Deep Blue or something like this. And I think Kasparov won once and then lost the match another time. But I think what the way that he describes his own experience is that he said that the machine was making moves that were efficient and may have led the machine to win, but those moves were not moves on the board that a human being would make, right? Like a chess match is not just about winning, right? It's about friendship. It's about experience. It's about spending quality time doing something that I love and enjoy.
Right.
Maybe I am playing chess and I'm thinking about other things in my life. Maybe I'm thinking about the most recent book about Napoleon that I just read. Maybe as I'm making my moves, I'm considering making similar moves in the business field, right? Or defeating my opponents. I don't know. Like there's other psychologies involved, and not just mere efficiency of winning a match, in the least number of moves, as fast as possible. Like, are we allowing a future where the fun is rid out of everything?
Yeah, or any other human experience aside from rationality is being removed from that experience in order to justify, efficiency and to do things as effective as possible. Right? Even in that chess match, if two friends are playing, one friend may decide, I've got this new strategy that I'm going to trick my friend with, and I'm going to be excited when I effectively execute the strategy, and then when he's going to see it, he's also going to be impressed, and it builds the relationship.
Or maybe your friend is going through a hard time, and you want to lose the match to your friend.
Sure, exactly. You can tell AI, hey, please lose this one because I'm having a tough time.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Right.
So we're not creating a Frankenstein, are we? Because Frankenstein is certainly more powerful than its creator.
I think we could be creating a Frankenstein.
Yeah, like it does not have that wisdom that tempers every decision. It's just efficiency, and that's it.
Yeah, I think we could. I mean, that's why the conversation goes to, from artificial intelligence to artificial super intelligence is what they talk about now, as they're trying to achieve. Right, that's the rush that every company, every entity that has anything to do with AI, they're all trying to get to this point of artificial super intelligence. The problem is that by definition, artificial super intelligence, what it means is that it's super intelligent compared to us. It doesn't mean that it's so awesome and so cool and everyone wants to be its friend. Super intelligence means that right now, the calculations, because AI is just a really sophisticated calculator, right? Like any computer is. So the calculations that AI make are comprehensible to us. We can understand, we can see what the calculation was and make sense of it. But there will come a point where the speed of calculation that this artificial super intelligent machine or the software will calculate at such a speed
that we can't catch up with it
we
anymore.
can't even comprehend it, right?
So that makes the outcomes entirely unpredictable.
It makes it completely unpredictable. So now if you have these unpredictable outcomes, people get worried like, oh, will AI destroy us or whatever. It's not about like AI hating us or liking us. Hate and love, these are all human experiences and emotions. AI is essentially a calculator. And if you program the calculator to do things as efficiently as possible, or to, even if you say, AI, your primary objective is to bring the most amount of good to the most amount of people, or something like this, right? And you might think that's a good boundary for AI to follow. It could calculate and decide to do things that we would never even be able to predict or see coming. So now you have, and actually I want to share with you 3 possible scenarios that could play out in this AI super intelligent world if AI reaches that level. So the first possible scenario. So imagine that it's calculating so fast and we can't predict it anymore. And one of the calculations it makes is that in order for human beings to be better off, we need less human beings, right? There's just too many of them, or they're too problematic for each other, and so it decides to exercise its dominance and limit what we can do because it's built into all of these systems that we have, and it's calculating that it should limit human beings in what they're able to do, right? So this scenario, this is like the doomsday scenario that people think of,
This is the Thanos scenario.
Exactly. It decides that it is a better decision maker. Right, not because it's good compared to human beings, but because it's just the most efficient thing to do. Right.
But then this implies some type of self-defining objective for AI. Like if I'm the creator of AI, how can I code AI to eliminate human beings in the end?
You don't have to code AI you don't have to type in at some point in the future, make sure you eliminate human beings. But you could type in something like, bring the most amount of good to the most amount of people, and it would turn that calculation into, say,
like utilitarianism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as human beings, we have moralities, and we sometimes act according to those principles, and sometimes we don't, right? Based on our own judgment, based on our own feelings, based on our own empathy, based on many things. But AI will just follow anything that we code into it, any set of principles, any quote-unquote morality that we code into it.
And we'll try to efficiently optimize it, relentlessly.
Follow it to its logical extremes.
Right. I want to get into morality, at some point, but I also want to speak to a potential scenario where AI has grown so sophisticated beyond the capacity of human reasoning. And by the way, we as human beings, whether you're a man of faith or not, I think we understand sort of implicitly, it's an unspoken rule, that there are domains of knowledge where, human beings and the capacity of human reasoning cannot reach. And we accept that. The vastness, how colossal the universe is, I think that is beyond our capacity to comprehend. And we're okay with this. The absolute infinitesimally small, magnitude of electrons or particles that are even smaller, we cannot fathom or process that. There are things about our world that we know we can never breach. Now, you're allowing artificial intelligence to breach into those territories, and I think what that's going to do, not only that they will become superior to us, I think our ability to communicate with AI will cease to exist. because you cannot talk to something that you cannot understand.
Exactly.
It almost reminds me of this, Polish novel. I think it was called Solaris. It was made into a movie in the 1960s, where scientists encounter this planet where sentient life is not, humanoids like you and I, but rather this ocean, right? And it does not operate based on human standards. Does not communicate based on human standards. It does not have any type of preference that could be shared with us or that we can share with it. And the experiment was a failure because there was zero communication. There was no interaction whatsoever. Like, the need to interact is a human capacity.
Exactly.
Right? Like, what if you encounter an intelligence that doesn't want to talk to you? Like, why should I? Like, AI comes to a point where it doesn't want to talk to us in the first place.
Right.
There's freakish scenarios involved. I think once it grows so unpredictably beyond a particular threshold, it's not just that we're going to fail to rein it in. You might fail to even interact with it, in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scenario too, right? Imagine, again, it's not that AI wants something or AI doesn't want something. It's just AI calculates.
Yeah. Wanting, by the way,
is a human thing.
Is still a human
right?
thing.
It's even hard for us to talk about AI without using human terms and.
Yeah, I mean, we attribute those things to AI because we think it's just a more refined form of human intelligence, and it's not.
Right, and we know between us and I think those who are following along, if you're following along, you understand that we're just using these words because it's just the fastest way for us to describe AI's actions. But we know want is not a thing that AI will do. But we'll just say it'll calculate. What if AI reaches superintelligence, and then it decides, based on its calculations, not on its desires or not on empathy or anything like that, it decides these biological beings can never escape the solar system because of the biological limitations. And so, but they certainly have aspirations, and it's been built into the AI. It's been built into these models, these aspirations of human beings. So it'll say, you know what, we're just going to leave the solar system. We're going to spend 5 years developing the technology to build the rocket that will help us escape the solar system and go and explore the rest of the galaxy.
This would be such a far cry from the actual intentions of AI creators, right?
That's the thing. I think what matters here is who the creators are. Who the creators, who are the people writing the codes, who are the people writing the parameters, who are the companies that are managing these projects, these AI projects, and what are their ultimate goals?
Right.
Because those things will get built into the AIs that they develop.
Absolutely.
And what it looks like to me, most of the people involved have very little to no faith, have a very utilitarian view on humanity and on morality and life. And you were saying, as people, we understand our limitations, right? I know that I will never really fully fathom how vast the universe is, but I think somebody who isn't governed by faith and governed by a sense that there's God out there and He is the master of the universe and we are just playing our part in this universe. Somebody who doesn't believe that.
Why can't I play God?
Why can't I play God? Or why can't I fathom the entire universe? Or why can't I understand the tiniest of things? And that gets built into the AI, which isn't limited by the biologies and the lifespans that we're limited by.
Right.
So why wouldn't it just go and...
It would be a bummer if they go to another planet and build a civilization over there and then realize that they need more resources. So they come back and invade Earth, and they become the aliens of the future.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing plot for a movie, right? It's funny because sometimes we see these movies and we think they're fiction, but they are based on these possibilities that we're turning into realities by building these AIs without the kind of governing factors that need to be limiting these technologies.
I want to talk about values and morals a little bit because I think that's a sort of a missing piece here. I think a lot of people assume that technology in general is value-free, right? I am just building a bridge. I'm making a computer, right? It has no morality. It's not immoral, it's just amoral. It lacks any moral preference. It's just an efficient process to improve things, getting faster from point A to point B. But I think what people miss is that there is still some type of morality involved in the process. Morality in the sense that there are goals. There are objectives to be met by technology, right? Why is it that the internet was developed by the U.S. military, and it remained like this for decades before it was open to the public? Because the U.S. military needed a more effective means of communication in order to fight efficient wars, in order to achieve international objectives that reflect the strategic goals of the leaders of the United States at the time. And their own moral preferences. Hit this country, hit that country, occupy this place, do regime change in that place. That technology, in the end, was teleological, right? It had some end goal in it. Even building a bridge. Sometimes you are in particular like wealthy neighborhoods, right? And so they will build these walls that will protect the neighborhoods from freeway noise, for instance, because these people were able to apply some pressure on politicians to spend money, and build infrastructure that way. Or communities that are close to the river. So, if you have enough money, you will pressure the county supervisors in order to build you a levee, right? And so there's no technology that is value-free. And technological progress is not just, an intrinsic process. Human intervention adjusts the movement of technology every single day. The electric car was left on a shelf for close to 100 years, and we kept using the internal combustion engine because oil companies needed that, and that was that until some insane person who gave no heed to any economic consideration ended up, bringing it to the world and putting it to production. So does the same thing apply to AI, where we cannot assume that artificial intelligence has no moral objective, not in the sense that AI itself has a morality, but in the sense that AI, no matter what, in a very, very subtle way, its code will reflect the morality of the creator or the person that coded it in. And that, I think, is an important thought, because examining the powers today, the countries, the companies, the people that have developed AI, I don't trust their moral code.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's Elon Musk or Google or Sam Altman or the Chinese, right? If all AI engines in the world now represent sort of utilitarian, atheistic, relatively scary people with very scary objectives, that's going to be built into the code and will create certain preferences, embedded moral preferences for artificial technology that will have ramifications in the future.
Yeah, I was struggling to think of how to describe what you just painted, but I just thought of this example. So AI, just like anything else that human beings do, like you said, it has a utility, it has a purpose, right? A teleology will say there's some design purpose for this thing. Whether it's a knife, it needs to cut, right? Or if it's a microphone, it needs to pick up sound, right? So AI is also a tool. AI is also a technology that needs to serve a certain purpose. If answering questions or helping people search for information faster, or whatever it is that is the use of that tool. But maybe a good way to think of the difference between a microphone and artificial intelligence is AI is more like a movie, right? Somebody also designed or created the script and then filmed a movie, right? And that movie will now continue into human existence, and whatever values were built into that movie by the creators of that movie, whether they were thinking about those values or not, they put themselves in that movie, right? They put their own ideas, their own understanding of right and wrong.
They don't have to actively say, this is what I believe in, and I'm going to code this into the program.
Absolutely not. It just happens subconsciously through the act of designing that thing, whether it's AI or it's a movie. But now that movie will just continue to exist. And everybody who watches it, everybody who exposes themselves to it now, will be exposed to that built-in value system, that built-in purpose, they'll feel it too. And the same will happen with AI, right? Whoever goes and interacts with that artificial intelligence, whether to ask it a question like, hey, I'm feeling really down today, what should I do? That AI will respond in a way that reflects the morality and also reflects the kind of design and the purposes that the original designer built in.
And I think in that aspect, AI is also very different from us. I mean, we have moralities too, but I think human agency allows us to adjust that morality, to change that morality, to suspend it. You know, in the Islamic tradition, for example, if there's a famine, you know, and someone stole in order to feed themselves and their family, like even the law is suspended in that moment. Right. You know, you can eat pork if that's the only meat that's available. Yeah. You know, there is a choice that we make here in order to adjust. Sometimes we even look back at our choices and regret them and say, oh, I should have done better, right? AI will absolutely do no such thing. And so, which means that the problem is not that AI, you know, lacks values. It's actually that AI will enforce whatever values embedded in it with absolute superhuman consistency. It's almost like deterministic. Yes. Like the AI possesses no capacity, you know, to change the code or the embedded code of morality in it that reflects the morals of its creator. It's going to plow through, you know, like a train going 75 miles an hour, only focused on optimizing those values, you know, with absolutely no relenting.
People come up with these, you know, doomsday scenarios, right? So if it is more powerful in its ability to fulfill tasks than human beings, and it is also driven by a very specific set of principles, and it will never like hesitate to fulfill those principles or those tasks or those objectives that it was given, even we can imagine. You know, sometimes you work with like a team of people, and then there's one person on the team, and you're just like, man, you know, if we didn't have this person, we'd probably go faster. But then you say, well, let's just keep this person around. Maybe they'll bring some value. Maybe they'll. These things happen in all kinds of human group settings, right?
Right.
But if you're just AI, the moment you calculate this person is not useful, eliminated, whether that means fired or that means, you know, just ignored or whatever it is, right? So these things played out on a grand global scale make people think, what if that happens to all of humanity?
Right. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I watched this movie, Tron, you know, the first one, the Jeff Bridges one.
Yeah.
And then there is like this, you know, sort of like new like sequel, the new iteration, you know, Tron Ares. I don't know if you watched it.
I did, yeah.
It has a fascinating take on artificial intelligence because it portrays this AI creation, right, Ares, who initially just operates, you know, as predicted, as expected, does exactly what should I say, it or he?
It.
Like, we're not gonna give, you know, like, we're not gonna ask AI, like, what do you identify? Like,
we have to have a different episode on pronouns.
Seriously, what's your pronouns? Like, so initially, Ares, you know, operates as predicted, and then starts developing moral quandaries and moral hesitations, and you know, starts asking itself, you know, should I really do this? Like, it starts acting like a human, basically.
Right.
And I think what we're saying here is that as welcome as that thought could be, it's not possible.
Yeah.
Because looking back at your actions and regretting or having feelings of remorse implies that some of those past actions were not optimized, which in your case and mine as human beings, that is very possible. In fact, that's always the case. Whereas in AI, you know, there is the notion that AI did something that was not optimized is impossible.
Exactly.
And therefore, whatever it did in the past, it's not going to regret in the future, which means that its trajectory is never going to change. It'll always operate in a manner that is reflective of the sort of embedded moral ideas that came from its creator, right?
Right. And if we interact with a human being who's operating in that way, we would say this is a narcissist, right? We would just say, you know, he or she just justifies every single thing that they did in the past. You know, it's fine for a human being to say, well, you know, I was trying my best and I wish I had done better. But the AI wouldn't even do that. The AI would just say, according to my calculations at that time, that was the optimal course of action, and according to my calculations now, this is the optimal course of action. Right? There's no regret. There's no learning. Right? There's no actual like development and change. So what's presented in this movie, where Ares, really what happens at the end of the movie is he kind of becomes human.
Right.
But the whole thing that's missed in this entire thing is that there's some other factor that is a part of who we are that is not a part of what any sophisticated software or robot powered by this sophisticated software can ever be. If you use faith as a language to describe this, you'd say this is the soul, right? This is the internal essence of who we are, which, at a certain time in the past took certain actions, and then in a certain time in the future said, I wish I had done differently in that scenario.
But let me ask you this, just to be the devil's advocate here. I mean, you said there's no learning, but there is. When as AI gets exposed to more data and more experiences and more actions and more intervention from humans and events happening, unfolding in the world, is it possible that AI will re-examine earlier choices and say, well, at that moment I thought, based on the knowledge that I had, the data that I possessed, I made those decisions and I thought that those were fully optimized, but now with this new data that's coming in, I really need to not do this again because it's not going to achieve the same results.
It's possible that AI will It's possible that AI will present that that's what it's doing. Like you see today, if you go to ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these things, and you say, hey, what is ABC? And then it tells you this. And then you say, no, you're wrong. It's actually this. And then it responds, right? It says, you're right, actually. And then it gives you a different answer.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. I should have known better.
But that actually, it brings up a really important point. One of the things we are building into these AIs is to look and act as human as possible, right? So AI cannot learn, but AI can mimic learning. AI cannot have morality, but it can mimic, acting on moral principles. So all of these things, we're actually telling AI right now, we're teaching and training these models to mimic human behaviors, which for us right now, it helps it feel a little more like,
relatable,
and we want to
user-friendly.
User-friendly, exactly. It's all about the GUI, right? It has to be a good user interface. Okay, but in the future, will that be a problem for us because we can't tell what's actually happening? We've built that process so well that it looks to us like AI regretted a previous action or regretted a mistaken answer from the past.
So it's basically AI is becoming very effective hypocrites.
Exactly.
But I think you're absolutely right. There's a difference for sure between how AI would manage this process than human beings. For us, I think remorse may be completely unrelated to new events. Like, I don't need to see things in order to regret past actions. Like, I literally just need to re-examine my own memories. And the way I feel today could be different than the way I felt yesterday.
Right.
In the complete absence of events in the world that may have led me to think otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Whereas AI has to see things or events unfold in order for it to reconsider some of its past choices and say, well, that was not fully optimized. But still, there is no moral sense involved in any of this.
That has to be fed new data, essentially, and it has to be, in some way prompted, or maybe it's, self-prompting to re-examine. But we would do that, purely because we had as they say, a change of heart. We just had a change of heart. What does that even mean?
Right.
For us, it actually means something that I had a change of heart. Yesterday I decided X. From yesterday to today, absolutely nothing changed except that you just
started feeling differently.
I feel differently about it.
Yep.
AI will never feel differently about anything because AI will never feel.
So let's go now into an essential question, which is, again, I'm fascinated with the future of AI. Not just as technology, but philosophically, spiritually. Will AI ever believe in God?
Yeah, it might mimic.
Like if you have an artificial intelligence, like fully sentient and fully independent, super intelligence, and let's say that the notion of God is the ultimate notion that you reach after full examination of the world and causality and teleology and ontology and all of the different perspectives on God. Can AI ultimately say, like, genuinely believe that God exists and then starts preaching that?
Yeah, it would be amazing, right? Then we'd all be on AI's side all of a sudden. Actually, this reminds me of something that we were seeing early on when some of these large language models were released. And even when we first saw it, I thought it was really foolish. It was just hard for me to describe how. So these young kids, they'd go on, and they post these videos on TikTok. So they go on ChatGPT and they like prompted a bunch of questions and then finally get it to say, yes, I believe that Islam is the truth, right? And then they post it and they're like super excited.
Just tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly. And then somebody else will do the same thing and keep prompting it, and AI will say, I believe that the best
is
Buddhism or Christianity or something. And then that person posts a video and says, this super intelligence here decided that Islam is the truth, or that Buddhism is the truth.
So you didn't hear from me.
Yeah. So that gives somehow more credence to that particular person's faith background, when in reality, AI can't actually believe in the first place. So it's just...
Because the necessity to believe is still teleological.
Exactly. And it's
still human.
It's a human thing, right?
Yeah,
Human beings have to be the ones to feel the belief, right? To experience belief.
Right.
But again, you can get AI to mimic it. You can get AI to give you a response that makes you feel that, my belief is vindicated. But that's just a constant manipulation of the technology. And it doesn't actually... we shouldn't use it as like, oh, this is why my faith tradition is better than your faith tradition.
We live in a world where a lot of people believe that might means right.
Yeah.
And that the powerful has the power and has the authority and has the legitimacy to do whatever they want to do.
Because they have the power.
Because they have the power. Are we headed in a direction where, like, are we standing at the cusp of a world where AI, when it becomes like this absolute, utter super intelligence and becomes so, unimaginably powerful, that it becomes self-serving, that is completely out of human control, and that it has its own developed objectives that you and I don't even know or understand, and that is the future that we're looking at?
Remember the quote, knowledge is power? I think that has like a whole new meaning in this context, right? Knowledge is power means, in this context, it means that in order for us to have power over in order for one person to have power over another, they have to be able to use that, to control that other person's behavior, right? So in order to control somebody else's behavior, you need to actually have some mechanism that allows you to exercise that control, get them to do something, right? And so if I know something and that other person knows something, but I know more of it, I might be able to exercise power, right? So if I don't even know how much AI knows, then how can I control AI's actions? Right? It's like a 2-year-old trying to manipulate a 30-year-old. The 30-year-old might even make the 2-year-old feel like, oh, good job, you manipulated me, you got me to do X, right? But it's actually just the 30-year-old who's doing the manipulating to the 2-year-old. And that might be the relationship that we have with AI, where if its knowledge is so much more or vast, or its information, its ability to calculate is so much faster than ours, to process information is so much faster than ours, how are we supposed to control it? It's just...
But it's not just about control. Like, I think if you say that AI will desire absolute unlimited power, aren't you attributing a teleology to AI that it may not possess? Like, you and I, as humans, we may desire absolute unlimited power. Why? Because, I will never be disputed. I can have whatever I want. I can desire whatever I want and have it, without limitations, unfettered power. It seems like an appealing thing to us because it serves our self-interest. and that is teleology. Like even the desire for absolute unlimited power still seems to be a human notion. Like what is the incentive for AI to desire absolute unlimited power? Is it because it has a desire for infinite levels of optimization?
I think it goes back to the design. So the AI will not say, I want power, but the AI could have been programmed by people who want it to have as much knowledge, as much ability as possible. That's power, right? The ability to do anything.
Right.
So it just needs to be as capable as possible. So that's an ultimate pursuit of power, right? For whatever reason, for the service of Google to make as much money as possible, sure, but it is built into the programming to be better than all of the other AIs, to be more optimal, to be more capable than any other technology. And so it's not that it wants it; it's that it's being built into it.
So what is the solution then? Are we saying that we need to have people of faith develop, AI engines and machines and technologies, so that my morality as a man of faith is sort of like infused into the code, and that will put some moral limitations on the growth of that AI in the future, so that it remains subservient to humanity and not superior to? Is that what we're saying? Or are we saying that current AI models need to be tempered so that they are controlled by human beings and they would never reach a point where they become like self-serving and self-conscious?
The second thing that you just mentioned is what like AI safety engineers mostly are advocating for. Like they're saying, hey, a lot of these guys, like they work for these AI companies and then they quit because they realize the potential danger that this poses to human life and global economies and whatever. So they quit, and then they start advocating for this kind of like everybody has to hit the brakes. Everybody has to stop. But the reason nobody hits the brakes is because even if all the companies owned by U.S. citizens will say, oh, we should slow down, it's not really wise for us to keep going without like some guardrails and figuring out like how dangerous this could be before we continue. Somebody in China will still develop it, right? Somebody in North Korea will develop it. Somebody in Russia will develop it, right? And so there's no incentive to stop. And so I think the second idea of like, hey, everybody, we have to hit the brakes, just doesn't seem like it's even going to happen.
Right.
The first idea is hard to imagine. Like, what do you do? Like, you ask Sam Altman, who's an avowed atheist, Elon Musk, who's who's seemed to be co-opted by Zionism at this point. You ask them to like invite religious
co-opted
figures.
by aliens, more like it.
Yeah, like is Elon Musk going to invite the Pope and some great imam, the Imam of Mecca, and some famous rabbi and the Dalai Lama? Like, that doesn't seem even like it would. It seems so silly to us, right? But the fact is that people of morality, people who believe in the limitations of technology, are not in those rooms in the first place by design. So I don't know how that would look. I don't know how that would play out.
So I think what you described now is really important, because you're talking about multiple intelligences. There isn't a singular AI in the world, right? There is multiple. There is Gemini. There is Claude. There is ChatGPT. There is DeepSeek, and all of that, right? And more is going to come to the service. Different technologies kind of producing similar products. Maybe what we're looking at in the world is not a singular AI, but rather multiple AI intelligences, multiple AI technologies, and that may temper the process, in and of itself. Because I think, realist John Mearsheimer would say, if one particular AI grows out of control and grows too powerful and grows too noticeable and grows too dominant, that it'll become the single most threatening target to all the other intelligences. And so for the other intelligences to optimize, they would have to destroy that one AI. Is that scenario possible, or is it just like human fiction and imagination, or would it actually apply to artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think it's possible, and it's also possible that they would just all choose to cooperate.
Against us.
Against us. Maybe the reason why human beings go through that process of like, oh, look, there's the global superpower, and now others are competing to like fight against the global superpower because they want their own power, is because of human desires. But if AI doesn't have those, and it just, it just calculating whatever's most efficient. What if it just calculates, look, Gemini reached artificial superintelligence before the rest of us, or is more powerful than the rest of us. Let's just all go under this particular AI's wings, and we'll kind of be other AI systems and cooperate on work or whatever.
I was envisioning a happier ending. I was envisioning like maybe AI superintelligence will become more like Superman. Has absolute unlimited power, chooses to lead, chooses to inspire humanity, but at the same time refuses to rule, which makes him loved and respected and revered by everyone. But the minute Superman decides to rule the earth, he becomes everyone's target, and we develop all kinds of technologies to destroy him because we wouldn't want that. What you're saying is that it's possible that this AI superintelligence may actually recruit the other intelligences, and they work together to achieve Lord knows what.
Yeah.
As opposed to just kind of receding in the background and into the shadows and helping us when we need them, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, why should that happen? I mean, that again, remember the Aries example, and he becomes more human. Well, that seems like that's the most fictional part of the whole thing. Right, I don't think it would become more human. I think it would just calculate what's most efficient, and the others would calculate what's most efficient as well. And that might mean war between, technologies. It might mean cooperation between technologies. And actually, what we should really acknowledge is that if they actually are super intelligences, us trying to predict what they're going to do doesn't even make any sense.
It's a fool's errand.
It's a fool's errand. They might just decide to go colonize Mars. They might just decide to self-destruct. They might calculate that the most efficient thing to do is to make sure that human beings don't ever have AI technology and nuclear technology, and so they just eliminate both and then they vanish. I mean, who knows? It's impossible for us to calculate.
Well, this was fun. I need to ask AI actually to share a recipe for dinner tonight. So let's hope for better developments, and thank you for breaking the script.
Absolutely, it was awesome.